Today I want to lay out, clearly and calmly, what happened with Colombina's version 3 changes, what was actually adjusted, why the reaction online has been so intense, and whether this update is truly a nerf, a buff, or a rebalancing that depends on how you play and how much you invest. In this breakdown, we're going to go piece by piece. The skill changes, the lunar damage number shifts, what happened to her max HP and scaling, what changed in her constellations, and most importantly, what all of this means in real gameplay at C0 compared to higher investment. I'll also explain why these kinds of pullback then refocus adjustments happen so often in beta, how this compares to other characters who looked overloaded early on, and whether this feels like normal balance or constellation pressure. By the end, you should have a clean, realistic picture of where Colombina stands after version 3, and whether the panic is justified.
This video is brought to you by A Figure a Day, your home for premium anime figures and collectibles. Right now, the store is offering 40% off all figures. Discover fan-favorite characters, beautiful sculptures, and new drops every day. Shop now at afigureaday.com and level up your collection.
Now, let's get into it. When the version 3 notes hit, the immediate headline people grabbed was Nerf. And on a surface read, that reaction is understandable, because if you look strictly at the raw multipliers on her elemental skill, several numbers did drop. Lunar shock damage, which scales off max HP, went down. Lunar blooms per trigger damage went down. Lunar crystal damage also got reduced. If you stop at that layer, it looks like a straightforward hit to her output. But that's also where most of the confusion starts, because Colombina was never a character you evaluate purely by her personal damage line. Even before version 3, her kit sat in an unusual, overloaded space. She wasn't just dealing damage, she was acting as a sub-DPS, boosting lunar reactions, scaling almost entirely from max HP, and enabling reaction teams that were already strong even without her. Characters that stack that many jobs at once rarely make it through beta untouched. We've seen this exact pattern before. When a kit delivers too much value at low investment, the first correction is almost always to bring the baseline down. So yes, her skill damage was reduced. That's real. At C0, her personal damage is lower than it was in the earlier version. If you were planning to play her like a pseudo-main DPS, or you expected her skill to be the primary driver of team damage on its own, that expectation took a direct hit. And for players who care about complete at C0 designs, that's the part that feels bad. But what changed alongside that is just as important, and this is where opinions start to split because almost everything Colombina does is tied to max HP. Because Colombina is an HP scaling character in almost every meaningful way, max HP isn't just a stat for her, it's the engine of the entire kit. Lunar reaction damage keys off it. Her stat conversion effects are tied to it. Any follow-up damage or secondary effects attached to her mechanics pull value from it as well. And that's exactly why version 3 doesn't feel like a simple numbers down situation. What they did here looks less like a flat nerf and more like a redistribution of power. Instead of letting her sit at a high baseline all the time, they've pushed more of her influence into a specific, intentional window. Her peak contribution now lives inside a defined uptime period, when her bright effect is active. During that window, she's more impactful than before. Outside of it, she's more restrained. That isn't random. It's a familiar balancing approach for characters who combine reaction amplification with damage contribution. When a kit offers too much value passively, the usual solution is to turn that value into something you must actively manage through timing, rotations, and windows, rather than something you permanently own. The other flashpoint is her constellation tuning, especially C2. Some of her earlier constellation-based lunar bonuses were trimmed, while the higher breakpoints, especially C2 and C6, were pushed upward. That's where the C2 bait accusations are coming from, and it's not hard to see why. C2 is meaningfully stronger now. The conversion from max HP into ATK and def for the active character was increased, and since her HP ceiling rises during bright uptime, that conversion scales even harder exactly when she wants to be strong. But it's important to be precise about what this actually means. That buff applies to the active character, not the whole team simultaneously. So it doesn't turn her into a universal, team-wide buffer. It turns her into a targeted amplifier that rewards good sequencing. If your rotation lines up with her window, the value is real. If you play sloppy, it's less impressive. That distinction matters. So when people ask, did they get her kit to sell C2? The answer isn't a clean yes or no. Her baseline damage was reduced because her total package, damage plus utility, was too efficient at low investment. At the same time, the kit now gives more payoff to players who invest. Both can be true without this automatically being some cynical cash grab. This is also very typical for characters tied to new systems. Early versions are often overtuned, then the baseline gets pulled back while the investment curve gets sharpened. Now, Lunar Bloom is where the emotional reaction has been the strongest. Bloom teams took a bigger hit than other reaction paths in terms of raw damage per trigger, and that naturally makes Bloom-focused players feel targeted. But there's a balancing logic here. Bloom setups were creating extremely high spikes when everything aligned, especially in teams with strong off-field application. If you want to reduce outlier damage without deleting the archetype, you cut the spike and keep the consistency. That's a common approach. What's also notable is that Lunar Crystal teams still look very alive after the changes. Lunar Shock and Lunar Crystal interactions still fit cleanly into her kit, and her core role as a reaction enabler hasn't been removed. This is why a lot of theory crafters are framing her new position as still strong, but no longer competing with the absolute ceiling teams. And that matters. It limits power creep while keeping her relevant. So, where does that leave her at C0? The clearest summary is weaker personal damage, but still functional in her intended job. She's still a lunar reaction amplifier. She still adds value during her power window. She still supports reaction-driven teams that want stable output rather than abuse-level spikes. If someone wanted her to be a solo carry that deletes content by herself, that was never going to survive to release. Version 3 just makes the intent harder to ignore. And at C2? She looks strong, very strong, but also more specialized. The gap between C0 and C2 is wider now, and players should be honest about that when deciding whether they like her direction. Some people are fine with C0 works, C2 is luxury. Others hate seeing so much value concentrated into one breakpoint. Both perspectives are reasonable. The last thing to keep in mind is that this is still beta. Numbers can shift again. Effects can still be tuned. Nothing is final until launch. But the direction is becoming obvious. Colombina is being shaped into a reaction amplifier with managed power windows and a steeper investment curve for players who choose to go further. So here's what I want to know from you. Do you prefer characters that feel complete at C0, even if their ceiling is lower, or characters that scale hard with investment, but demand better timing and rotations? And do you think power windows are healthier design than constant, always-on strength? Let me know in the comments. This is one of those changes where the conclusion depends heavily on what you value. That's it for this breakdown of Colombina's version 3 changes. If you want more updates like this, clear, grounded, and without the panic, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. I'll see you in the next video.
This video is brought to you by A Figure a Day, your home for premium anime figures and collectibles. Right now, the store is offering 40% off all figures. Discover fan-favorite characters, beautiful sculptures, and new drops every day. Shop now at afigureaday.com and level up your collection.